it is a big pleasure for me to start announcing our first keynote speaker of the day. So Jerald Singh is the group head of product and design at Grab. And for those of you who have not heard the name before, it's an amazingly successful unicorn from Southeast Asia, and he's going to talk much more about that. But I can just tell you, when I did a recent trip, when you go on the roads, they're everywhere. I think they're one of the most pervasive startups. I don't know if you can call it startup anymore, that you've seen anywhere in the world. So he's going to talk about that. And I think I'm super excited that Vlad and team, with some support from Adipika, managed to get them here to come to Cluj and make hopefully a couple of interesting announcements during the day, what I learned backstage a bit earlier. And Jerald has been, before, he's lead product at Grab. He has had an amazing experience as a global leader in the mobile space. So he has also an experience across Silicon Valley, leading some of the brands and the products that you know very well and use probably every day at Yahoo, Expedia, Mobiata. And he's scaled product teams immensely at Grab. And he will share with you the remarkable story that Grab has and how to build a product and a digital future for 650 million people. Please give him a warm round of applause and welcome him to Cluj, and make sure that he comes back many times again. Thank you very much, Jerald, for joining us. I'm very excited.
Thank you.
And by the way, you have 30 minutes. I know this timer says 20, but we want to make sure that we get the full time. We'll get that fixed.
Even better. I love it. Hello, everyone. As Philip mentioned, my name is Jerald Singh, and I lead our product and design teams at Grab. This is my first trip to Cluj. Actually, my first trip to Romania, my first trip to Eastern Europe, and I love it here. To be completely fair and transparent with you folks, I had no idea where Cluj was when Philip invited me. It took me 31 hours to get out here, but now that I'm here, I love this city. I spent a lot of time yesterday walking around the plaza. It was just amazing weather. Even last night, people were still out having fun on a Monday night at midnight. And I was thinking to myself, man, I could live here, at least during the springtime. I don't know what the winters are like out here. Look, like Southeast Asia, Romania is it's becoming a powerhouse, right? It is a technology hub, a fast-growing technology hub to watch. And there's some incredible talent out here. You folks are doing incredible things, incredible work. You recognize as much as I do that technology truly has the power to shape the communities that it serves. And we've been fortunate to be able to do that in Southeast Asia. And so that's why I believe sessions like this, like Tesselvania, some of the lessons and some of the presentations from yesterday enable us to learn from each other and truly help us get to that future quicker. So with that, I'm delighted and thankful to be here to be able to share the story of Grab as well as the story of Southeast Asia. Okay, so first we'll kick off with Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is a region of about 650 million people. And of those people, most are extremely young, right? Our median age is 30. 60% of the population is under the age of 35. If you're curious, I happen to be in the 40% bucket. In addition to that, there is a really large population of connected users. Our internet users are about 350 million. That's the entire size of the US population. But even more interestingly, we add about 3 million new connected customers, new connected users, every single month for the last 3 to 4 years. So tremendous growth. And then finally, it's a booming digital economy as well. In fact, one that is forecasted to triple in size by 2025 and reach a size of about 240 billion. Along with all of the great potential, There's also a lot of challenges, as you can imagine. Challenges around income inequality, challenges around social inequality, challenges around basic fundamental services inequality, access to those services. In terms of income inequality, 36 million Southeast Asians still live below the poverty line. This is while in places like Thailand, the richest 1% control 58% of that country's wealth. In Indonesia, the richest 1% control half of that country's wealth. So a lot of inequality there. Inequality in terms of access is also there. Some of the things that the developed world takes for granted are still lacking in certain parts of Southeast Asia. There's 0.6 doctors for every 1,000 people that are out there, and most of the population out there still doesn't have access to healthcare services, to banks and financial services. And then finally, if you've spent time in Southeast Asia, how many of you have traveled to Southeast Asia? Oh, practically everyone. How many of you had a pleasant experience with Grab out there? Everyone, perfect. That's what I love to see. But if you've traveled out there and you've spent time in Bangkok or Manila or Jakarta, right? One of the things you'll notice is just really bad congestion. And the reason for that is because the infrastructure out there hasn't kept pace with the growth of the population and the growth of those economies. So still really outdated infrastructure. In fact, the Asian Development Bank forecasts that it would take another $26 trillion worth of investment just to meet the needs of Southeast Asians in some of these large countries out there by 2030. So, a lot of, yes, opportunity, but a lot of challenges. And this is where Grab's home is, and these are the types of things that we focus on and try to improve. All right, now let's quickly talk about Grab for a bit. Look, when we started Grab, and it was called My Taxi back then, we started off in a small little office in Kuala Lumpur in 2012. And if you had told me that we would go from this, a taxi hailing service, to this year, 2019, Southeast Asia's everyday super app, no one would have believed you. Today, people use Grab every single day to get to work, to get home, to get their kids to school, right? They use Grab every day to order food, to get their packages delivered, to stream videos, to book movie theater tickets, to pay online and offline, to plan their trips using public transportation or one of the Grab services, to book hotel rooms, and a number of things, to pay bills and so forth, yeah? And so truly everyday super app in Southeast Asia. We've been fortunate in being able to build the #1 consumer platform in Southeast Asia. Today, we're the largest, so we've driven over 150 million downloads, so really large customer base. The #1 transportation platform in the region, the 3rd largest in the world. We're the #1 fintech platform in Southeast Asia, the only player that has e-money licenses in 6 of the largest economies in Southeast Asia. And then we're the fastest growing regional food delivery service in Southeast Asia as well. So tremendous growth. We operate in 336 cities now, over 8 countries, and we have the maximum reach, and we reach more Southeast Asians than any other super app in that part of the world. All right, while we've grown tremendously, we've stayed true to our roots, right? Our sole focus is and will remain on Southeast Asia. We've focused on it by looking at the biggest problems that region faces and attacking those problems one at a time. And then finally, we truly believe that using tech allows us to truly impact the lives of our customers. I'm going to briefly talk about our customers. Who are these folks? Our customers are our passengers. They are who use Grab every day to get from one place to another. They're the folks who are the eaters, who order food from Grab Food for lunch or dinner to feed their families. There are drivers who provide all these transport services. There are merchants. there are agents, and I'll speak about these folks in a bit. But there are folks like Mr. Tan. Mr. Tan was a taxi driver in Singapore. Then he joined Grab, and now he's a driver on the Grab platform. He's now earning more income than he ever did as a taxi driver. Additionally, now he doesn't have to drive around looking for jobs, right? With the Grab platform, we send jobs to him. As a result, he's more productive and is earning more income. Our customers are also folks like Chua Suzy. She works on one side of the island in Singapore and has to commute to the other side, right? When we started Grab in 2012, it was actually for folks like Suzy. And this was back in Kuala Lumpur, but we started it on a very simple mission. We wanted to make it safe for people to travel from one spot to another, especially women, yeah? Because back then, it was actually a harrowing task to hail a taxi cab. Right? It wasn't easy. If you managed to stop one, you'd have to haggle on price. The taxi driver would only pick you up if they were already headed that way. Yeah, and so it was difficult. If you had an early morning flight, trust me, the thing you were most anxious about was not wasn't your flight. It was making sure someone came to pick you up to take you to the airport. So it was very difficult. Now we offer so many different transport options that Suzy is able to take Grab Shuttle or Grab Bus, which is affordable and gets her safely from one spot to another. As we expanded, we recognized that we should be doing more, and simply doing taxis or four-wheel wasn't enough. So we expanded into other transport options like two-wheel. And for drivers like Siti Nurmala, who joined Grab and started driving Grab Bike for us after her husband passed away, right? Over the course of a little bit of time, she was able to save enough money to put her daughter through college and then to also pay for her wedding, right? These opportunities would not be available to her before if it weren't for Grab. It also means that as we expand into other services like Grab Food, it provided opportunities for folks like Mokhtar bin Mohammed Hassan, who is a Grab Food delivery driver for us. Mokhtar suffered a stroke a few years ago. And after that stroke, it was difficult for him to find a job, right? With Grab Food, not only can he work flexible hours, he works when he can, but he's also able to use his personal mobility device to do those deliveries. Think about what that means to him, right? Someone who suffered a stroke, has a personal mobility device, now has a way of earning income using that same device. And then finally, we moved from food into financial services as well. And so for entrepreneurs and SMEs like Vincent and Nicholas, it means that, financial services, loans that are actually fairly difficult to get in Southeast Asia and were beyond their means are now possible. Right? And Grab has enabled that through our lending services, as well as the services that we provide to bring financial services to the underserved. We've been fortunate that over the course of several years, we've been able to enable more than 9 million micro-entrepreneurs. Who are these micro-entrepreneurs? These are our drivers that drive for Grab and get folks from one place to another. These are our merchants who offer goods and services. These are our agents who enable rural communities to come online for the very first time. We've been very fortunate. And the thing we're the proudest of is not the fact that we were able to do this. It's how we were able to do that. And that's what I'll share with you next. So before I get there, I want to be able to describe. One of the things that's really propelled our growth is partnerships, and I'll talk about that in a second. But our partnerships meant that we work closely with governments, and it was a very deliberate decision when we started Grab that from day one we would make sure that the governments of our local communities were working closely with us and part of our journey. Yeah, and part of the reason we governments have worked so willingly with us is because of the income that we're drive because of the economics that we drive at Grab. So in terms of economic contribution, in Indonesia, last year we contributed about 3.4 billion US dollars. In terms of employment, 38% of our Grab bike drivers were unemployed before they joined Grab. 33% of our Grab car drivers were unemployed. Grab car is the four-wheel ride-hailing service. And then finally, for our Grab bike drivers, we were able to make sure that they were earning more income on the Grab platform than before, right? So we were able to increase their productivity by 113%, and that's a 113% increase in their take-home pay, right? So just tremendous economic contribution across the board as well. Okay, so one of the questions I got asked yesterday, that our team, which is here, gets asked frequently, that our co-founders get asked every time during interviews, is what has Grab done to be able to scale as quickly as we've been able to scale in the last several years, right? What's enabled us to get to that growth? And I wish I could stand up on stage and tell you it was all the MBAs that we hired. We've hired a few. It wasn't them. It wasn't all the McKinsey consultants. We've hired perhaps too many. It wasn't them. It wasn't a number of things, right? What it was a strong desire, a fundamental desire, an obsession to truly improve the quality of lives for all Southeast Asians. And that is the one quality, the one obsession that has driven us to the success that we've been able to achieve. And that obsession is something that's intrinsic. It's part of our DNA, right? The product decisions we make are based on that obsession. The business decisions we made, the operational decisions we made are based on that obsession. The people that we hire are culturally aligned to that obsession. And that is truly what's been able to drive our growth. And we've been able to drive that growth in a number of meaningful ways, right? By increasing income earning opportunities at scale, by being able to enable access to basic high quality services that our customers want and need in Southeast Asia. And then by being able to bring services and access to the underserved. Yeah. Okay, so there were three factors around improving quality of lives that enable us to grow. Yes, one was being unapologetically hyperlocal, being relentlessly hyperlocal. One of the things you'll notice when you move from Singapore to Jakarta, to the back streets of Manila, the alleyways of Ho Chi Minh City, right, to Palembang, some of the tier 2, tier 3 cities in Indonesia, is that each city is so different. Each country is different. And a common mistake that companies make and investors make is they look at Southeast Asia as just one big region. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. I think all of you, or most of you, should recognize that, I can't build one product and expect it to work across all of these cities in this very fragmented and diverse area of the world. Yeah, you truly have to be able to build for your customers in the cities that you operate. And that's what we've been able to do. And we've done that by serving local needs. Yeah, the thing that propelled us and took us from on day one when we launched My Taxi, from ride number 1 to the first 11,000 rides on day 1. It wasn't a fancy innovation. And sometimes, when you're disrupting new areas and you're thinking about innovation, you're always thinking of the high-tech stuff, right? A lot of times it's actually the simple stuff that drives the most growth, yeah? So the thing that drove our early growth, it wasn't the machine learning algos that we use for allocation. We do that now. It wasn't computer vision that our mapping team uses to build out streets to get you better ETAs, right? Although we do that now. It wasn't an NLP chatbot, right? That enabled us to allow customers to talk to CE agents or transact seamlessly via chat. It wasn't any of that, right? It was the ability to accept cash. It's very simple, right? Ride-hailing was great, but if customers didn't have credit cards, it didn't matter. No one would use our service. And so we just enabled the ability to take cash, and we made it safe for drivers to accept that cash. Yeah, that's what really got us and drove our early growth. It wasn't really rocket science, but by being hyperlocal, by having our boots on the ground in each of the areas that we operate in, meant that we recognized that as a local need. And our competitors, back then, it took them 2.5 years to recognize this need. And then eventually they started accepting cash as well. It also means solving local problems. This image back there isn't one that we created for this presentation or for PR or media. This is real life. This happens in the streets of Southeast Asia every single day, right? This happens to be in Jakarta. And, a lot of times when you're spending time on the ground, you see the local problems that you need to solve, right? So if you've spent time in Jakarta, one of the things you'll notice is our Grab bike drivers there all wear the same green helmets, the same black and green jackets, and they all congregate in these camps. They have these communities that they belong to. So as a customer, if I'm done with work and I kind of walk out of our office and go to this camp and I'm looking for my driver, I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at the license plate, I'm looking at the driver's face, but then when I get to the Grab bike area, they all look the same, right? They're all wearing helmets, they all have jackets, and I'm going from motorbike to motorbike, looking at the small license plate to figure out who my driver is. And there are hundreds of drivers there, and it's rush hour, so there's hundreds of people there looking for a ride. So it's problematic for our customers. It's also difficult for our drivers, right? When I get a Grab bike job, I see where the general direction of that job, I see it on my phone, I put the phone in my pocket, both hands on my handlebars, and I start driving. And if that job gets canceled, right, I only see it when I'm at a stoplight. Or in the worst case, I've actually already arrived at the destination, only to find out that ride was canceled. So as a driver, I waste resources doing that. So it's difficult for the driver as well. So what did we do? Again, it wasn't rocket science. We took something that actually happens in everyday life, street hailing. We digitized it, yeah? And so now, all I do is I walk to the camp as a customer. I walk up to any Grab bike driver and say, hey, can you grab now? They pull out their phone. I have my phone out, type in a PIN code, and I'm allocated to that driver. And I can walk up to any one of those drivers, right? Just a really simple thing. It's great for the customer because now I'm not searching, yeah? It's great for the driver because the passenger's right there. I don't have to waste resources driving to the passenger. It's 0% cancellation, 0 ETA, right? So better use of resources. Very simple. Sometimes being hyperlocal means going offline to bring people online. Yeah? So there are parts of the world where, parts of Southeast Asia, especially the rural communities, more so in the rural communities, where there's just no access to banks, right? And people don't have bank accounts. And so as a result of that, they can't do online shopping. So if I'm a mom, right, or a dad, and my rice cooker's broken, I need to buy a new rice cooker, I don't have access to the bank, I can't do any online shopping. My only thing I can do is walk to wherever the village store is, or the store at the next village, or the next village, or the next village, and keep my fingers crossed that there's a rice cooker there, right? At a price that I can afford. You know? This truly happens to millions of people in Southeast Asia. And so we bought a company called Kudo in 2017. And it's built around a very simple but very elegant and critical core value prop. They enable customers in these rural areas to do online shopping. So now, as a mom or a dad looking to buy a rice cooker, I go to my Kudo agent, which is your neighborhood sales, corner store, and I tell them what they need. They pull up the Kudo app. They do online shopping for you. They get the package, the merchandise delivered. When it's delivered, they call me up or they come get me. I go pick up my merchandise and I hand over cash. Yeah? And so it's super simple, but it's enabled us to bring a lot of these folks online and given them access to online shopping for the very first time. Today, we have Kudo agents in 500 cities across Indonesia, and it's truly been a transformational service for us. Okay, second thing, we focused on developing talent at home, and I'll tell you what this means. Look, while today we have 7 R&D centers at Grab, and we employ 2,000 engineers and data scientists around the world, it was not always that way. In fact, back in the day, it was very difficult to find any tech talent, and if you found them, it was difficult to get them to stay in Southeast Asia. There's just no industry out there. So all of the best and brightest minds in Southeast Asia, they were leaving the countries, right? They were going to the US or elsewhere where there were jobs. So we co-owned the problem with our governments, with local universities. And what we did was we started internship programs. We started doing mentorships. We opened up labs. And so now these students, one, they're learning about technology from a very early stage. It's backed by a player in the industry. And once they graduate, they have a job waiting for them, right? We are the largest tech company in Southeast Asia, but there's so many tech companies there now that if you're a person graduating, you don't have to leave Southeast Asia anymore. In fact, now we have folks in other parts of the world who want to move back home to Southeast Asia and work for companies like Grab. But we've also been extremely successful in being able to bring some of the very best talent around the world to Southeast Asia and help us solve the problems that we face there. All right, the last part here. This is about partnering. And, when we started Grab, as I mentioned, we made a very deliberate choice to ensure that we were working closely with local governments, right? But we also recognize that if we were in the business and our mission, our obsession was to improve the quality of lives of our customers, it meant that we would need to provide them a lot of the everyday services that they need. But we would not be able to build all those services ourselves. No one can, right? And if we attempted to build it all ourselves, we knew we would spread ourselves too thin. And so our approach was partnering with some of the players that were already in the region, in the market. So how did we do this? First, on the government side, we work closely with governments from day one, and we do a set of different things with them. One, we provide them some of the great data we have around transportation, right? Our governments use our real-time traffic data. They use our mapping data. They use it to determine where the next bus stop should be or where the periods of high demand are, which are the congestion areas. They work closely with us to try to improve that. Additionally, we also do pilots with them, right? In Singapore and Manila and other parts of the region, we're doing pilots for shuttle, for bus, that enables to move a lot more people in those cities. So a lot of different relationships. And what it's done is it's built trust between the governments and Grab. And so now, as Grab moves from transport to food to payments to everyday services, the governments are there supporting us because there's an element of trust that exists already. And they recognize, just as we recognize with our local governments, that both companies, both entities, are there to improve the lives of Southeast Asians. Okay, in addition to that, on the partner side, we launched Grab Platform early last year, right? Grab Platform is a set of APIs and technologies that essentially collect all of the great technology that we've built over the last couple of years. This technology includes services for transport. It includes our logistics platform, our mapping APIs, our chat and messaging services. It includes payment and identification. It includes our fraud engine. And so what it means is if I'm a partner now, I can focus on the thing that I do really well. Right? Happy Fresh is our grocery delivery partner in Indonesia and a few other countries, Southeast Asia. They focus on ensuring they're getting the very best grocery inventory onto the platform. They rely on Grab for logistics, for the delivery of those groceries. Yeah, it's great for the partners because it enables them to scale across Southeast Asia and focus on the thing they really do well while letting Grab focus on the things we do really well. It's great for our customers because it means that we're able to provide them really high quality, reliable, valuable services. It's great for Grab because it means we can grow faster. Right? We don't have to build everything ourselves, and we are able to operate more efficiently. And then finally, it's great for all the micro entrepreneurs on the platform because it enables us to really drive more income earning opportunities for them. Okay, so to sum everything up, our growth and our evolution as a company has really been based around a single obsession, right? A single intrinsic belief to truly improve the quality of lives of Southeast Asians. And this has been something that's driven our product decisions, our business decisions, and how we operate our businesses, as well as how we hire. And that's truly been, we've been fortunate that we've seen the type of growth that we've seen, and we've been fortunate to be able to serve the people of Southeast Asia. Okay. So with that, and speaking of talent and hiring, look, I mentioned earlier how much I love Kluge and spending my time here. My team is here as well. They've been spending a lot of time here. And so, one of the things we do is we make sure that we're looking for talent everywhere, right? Anywhere in the world. And we try to bring people on who align with our mission, align with those social values. And so I'm excited to say that we're actually looking at Kluge as our 8th R&D center. And we're truly excited to welcome Kluge into the Grab family. I'm delighted that I have the opportunity to be up here to share this news with all of you folks. Thank you so much. Thank you to Philip and the rest of the team and for inviting us. I truly hope you found this presentation insightful, found it inspirational, and I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of you over the next couple of days.